Hey everyone, Tim Howard from Coastal Preps again, here for the boys basketball preview show. And just like with the girls, I am going to pull several questions and answer those questions to kind of preview the boys season, which should be a good one. Looking forward to it. We got a lot of transfers in, and some teams that I think are going to be a lot better than they were last year. So looking forward to a great boys basketball season. So let's go ahead and get started with the first question. Who will lead the area in scoring is the first question. And this is a bit of a tricky one. I think there's several candidates that could be in the running for leading scorer. I'll start with Myron McCoy over at Trask. I think he's going to have a big year. The junior guard, he's their point guard. He does have quite a bit around him, so maybe he'll average more assists and take away a little bit from his points production, but I still think he's a guy that averages 15 plus points a game. So I think he's in the discussion. Rodmeek Allen at New Hanover, arguably the best guard in the area, one of the best guards in the state. Just a terrific playmaker, and he's going to have to increase his scoring role this year. Now that New Hanover lost, quite a bit of senior leadership from last year's team, and then had a couple transfers leave the program as well. So Rod Meek is going to obviously have the ball in his hands a lot, but I think he's going to, instead of being a playmaker and creating for others this year, I think he's going to have to create a little bit more for himself. So a guy that didn't score a whole lot last year, I think he's going to see his scoring average go up significantly this year. Another kid that I think is going to have a really good season, Blake Batts, one of the best shooters in the area. He's from Southeastern Homeschool. That team lost quite a bit of scoring off of last year's team, so I think Blake's going to have to, increase his scoring total. And with his ability to make 3-pointers, I mean, he can make, 5 or 6 a game. So right there, you're looking at 15, 18 points. I think he's a kid that could be in that 15 to 18, maybe even higher range. But the person I'm going to pick, and not many of you have actually seen him play yet. I actually just got to see him play earlier this week. Hoggard senior Jack Voth. He's a transfer from Kansas, where he was the 4A Player of the Year in Kansas, and he's just a really dynamic scorer. Was really impressed when I saw him play in a scrimmage earlier this week. Listed at 6'5", has a great shooting touch from the outside, so I think he'll be a 40% three-point shooter or better, but also has good handles, has the ability to get to the basket. I'm sure his mid-range game is good, so I think he's a 3-level scorer. I think he can score kind of from anywhere, and with his touch from the three-point line, I'm sure he's a good free throw shooter as well. Didn't really get to see him take many free throws, but I'm sure he's a good free throw shooter as well. So he's a kid that I think Hoggard's going to need a lot of scoring from. They've got some really good pieces, but they don't really have that dynamic scorer. Hoku Fisher was their dynamic scorer last year, and he graduated. So I think Jack Voth takes over that role and averages, close to 20 points, if not more, a game. So that's my answer, is Jack Voth. Next question. Predict the order of finish in the Mid-Eastern Conference. And if you looked at the rankings on coastalpreps.com, you'll kind of see that I have, the teams in order, obviously, of how I think they're going to finish. If you didn't get a chance to see that, I'll kind of give you my order of prediction. Again, I did these before I got to see any team scrimmage, and Hoggard is the only team I have seen scrimmage. So, this is just kind of a guess based on, the rosters that I've seen and, kind of how the teams finished last year, what I think they've got back. And so, I could be way off with these. I could be pretty close with these. I really don't know. I think the conference is going to be pretty tight, a lot of parity this year. So this is my best guess on kind of how I think things will shake out. I have Laney number 1. I just like what they've got coming back. A lot of good pieces coming back, and then obviously added 2 impact transfers from New Hanover. Got a freshman in Quincy Waddell that's going to be really good for them. So and Josh Helms is a key piece that they have back. So like Laney to finish first. I've got Hoggard finishing second. He lost a lot from last year, like I said, but Jack Voth is that impact player, and they've got a lot coming up from their JV team that has been really dominant in the last couple of years. So we've got Laney 1, Hoggard 2, New Hanover. I've got finishing third. They lost a lot from last year, so I want to see how some of these new players play. But they've got arguably the best player in the conference in Rodmeek Allen. So anytime you've got him on the floor, you're a dangerous team. I've got West Brunswick finishing fourth, just like they did last year. They've got a lot of pieces coming back. Kevon Daniels, terrific football player, also a really good basketball player. J.J. Cobb, another really quick guard that they've got that helped on the football field. So I've got West Brunswick fourth. Ashley, I've got finishing fifth. North Brunswick, I've got sixth. Topsail, which only won 3 games last year, I've actually got finishing seventh, ahead of South Brunswick, who I have finishing eighth. Just don't know enough about the Cougars with a new coach and a lot of new personnel. So that's my order of finish. Laney, Hoggard, New Hanover, West Brunswick, Ashley, North Brunswick, Topsail, South Brunswick. We'll see how close I am at the end of the season. Next question. Who are the Breakout Player of the Year candidates? So every year at the mid-season point, I do Breakout Player of the Year nominees, and you guys as fans get to vote for them. These are just a few that I think will be on that list. I like a big post player from Trask, Sherrod Henderson. He's a sophomore. I think he averaged like 6 points or maybe a little higher than that last year as a freshman at Trask, but I think he's going to have a bigger role this year. Wouldn't be surprised to see him average maybe close to a double-double for Trask, so I think he takes a big leap from his freshman to sophomore season. At North Brunswick, a couple players from their football team that have helped lead their football team to one of the best seasons in school history, I think will also help lead their basketball team to a good season, and that's Eric Mosley and T.T. Green. If you're not familiar with those names, Eric Mosley is the running back for the football team. T.T. Green, the quarterback for the football team. So I think both of those guys come in and have good years on the basketball court as well. And then over at Hoggard, C.J. Cornegie, I think is a kid that's got a really good shot at having a good season. About 6'5", and is really dynamic. Just a great athlete. So I think he's gonna, if Hoggard can get out in the fast break, he's a kid that will thrive in a fast system, and I think Hoggard wants to play that way. Usually Hoggard likes to slow things down a little bit, but I think with the athletes they've got this year, they're going to want to play a little faster, and so I like CJ in that system to average maybe 8 to 12 points, and I think that'll be really good for the sophomore. Next question. Which team will have the greatest win improvement from last year? Well, I've already said I picked Topsail to finish 7th in the conference, and after winning only 3 games last year, I certainly think they can double that this year, or maybe even get to double-digit wins. They've got some big freshmen. Their team is humongous. I think when I looked earlier today, I think 8 of their 13 players on the roster are 6'5" or taller, maybe 6'4" or taller. So they're certainly the biggest team in the league. The problem that they had last year was turning the ball over, averaged 23 plus turnovers a game. So if they had 2 freshman guards last year, so if those 2 guards can take care of the ball a little bit better this year, they've certainly got the size to be able to attack inside and use that length and height to their advantage. So could certainly see Topsail, have a significant improvement in those 3 wins. Another team that I think will improve, West Brunswick had 12 wins last year. I certainly think they could improve upon that. Like I said, a lot of players back from last year with Kevon Daniels, J.J. Cobb, other players. They're going to play hard. They're going to play fast. And, if they can rack up some wins in the non-conference and then go around 500 in conference play, maybe a little over, then that should get them over 12 wins. North Brunswick, another team, I believe they had 13 wins last year, so they should be able to improve upon that. Again, the football team had great success, so I think a lot of those players will transfer over from the football field to the basketball court. And anytime you have success in one sport, I think it could certainly translate into success in another sport. So, those kids know how to win now. They know what it takes to win. They know what kind of work ethic it takes to win. And so I think North Brunswick will improve upon their win total from last year as well. Which 5 players are worth the price of admission? Always one of my favorite questions. If you don't have a kid in the area or really don't have a rooting interest and you just want to go watch really good basketball players, these are the 5 kids that I would recommend going to try to see at some point. You'll certainly get your money's worth watching these 5 players, and a lot of them I have already mentioned in this video. So we'll start with Rodmeek Allen, nephew of Kadeem Allen, the former New Hanover standout that led them to a state title. Played in the NBA with the Celtics for a little bit, and so comes from great pedigree. And Rodmeek, as a freshman last year, was easily the best ball handler in the area, and probably the best on-ball defender in the area. That's what I really like about Rodmeek, is he gets after it defensively. As good of an offensive player as he is, I think he may even be a better defensive player. So he's going to cause chaos for the opposing point guard and take a lot of teams out of their system. So certainly, if you can get a chance to go watch Rodmeek, I would recommend going to Brogdon Hall, which is going to be back open this year. It's got a new look, and so if you've not been to Brogdon Hall, a great place to watch a basketball game, and you get to see a great player in Rodmeek Allen. Another player that I certainly would recommend going to watch this year is Khalil Jenright, a kid that played for New Hanover last year, has transferred over to Laney this year, about 6'5", 6'6", a really good wing player, and can create his own shot, is very versatile, can shoot inside, outside. He's going to do some big things for Laney this year, and is one of the reasons why I picked them to win the league and have them as the #1 team in my power rankings as of this moment. Kevon Daniels was one of the stars on the football field this year. Even though West Brunswick struggled and only won 1 football game, Kevon Daniels was a highlight machine. He had a great season with rushing the ball, had some receiving touchdowns as well, and very physical player on the football field, is pretty physical on the basketball court too. And he has some great games last year. I think he averaged north of 12 points a game, and he'll have another really good basketball season this year, I believe. So Kevon Daniels at West Brunswick, another player that I would certainly recommend going to see. Myron McCoy, point guard for Trask. I think the Titans are going to have a really good year this year. I think they may be the favorites to win the Waccamaw Conference, and it all starts with Myron, who's a great three-point shooter, but also is a great facilitator for teammates, and he's got a lot of weapons around him this year. So I think Trask's going to have a big season. Made it to the second round of the playoffs last year, and then ran into Farmville Central, a team that doesn't seem like anybody can really beat in the playoffs. A team that just continues to win state championships. So they got a tough draw last year with that, but I certainly think Trask is a team that can make the third round or further this year. Another team that had great success with football. So can that translate to the basketball court? I think it can. And lastly, Jack Voth, the kid I already talked about from Hoggard, transfer from Kansas. He was the player of the year in Kansas. So I think he's going to have a big season for Hoggard, and is a fun player to watch. We haven't really had a player like him. I was trying to think of some players to compare him to. We really haven't had a player like him, skill-wise, around here in a while. So if you like watching, a big guard that can shoot the ball. If you put somebody big on him, though, he's going to drive to the basket. You put somebody small on him, he's just going to shoot over them. So Jack Voth, a kid that can do a little bit of everything for Hoggard, and certainly a great transfer for Coach Brett Queen and the Vikings. And we're down to our last question here, and it says, which team will average the most points per game? So we have a lot of teams that really like to focus on defense. So this was a tricky question for me. Hoggard obviously always wants to get down in the stance and defend you. New Hanover, with their full court press, does a great job of defending teams. South Brunswick's always one of the better defensive teams in the area. So it's tough to kind of score against these teams. So we really don't typically have teams that score a ton of points. My best guess is Southeastern Homeschool, a team that loves to get up and down the court. No shot clock, obviously, in high school basketball, but even if there was, they wouldn't need one. They like to get off a lot of shots, especially a lot of three-pointers. And so I think that's what kind of puts them over the edge Some other teams, I think, they'll average probably 8 to 12 3-pointers a game, and obviously that adds up to a lot of points. I think Trask is a team that's going to score a lot of points this year. Again, in a conference where they will face some teams that don't have as good a defense. They're not in the Mid-Eastern Conference, so they won't have to go up against, the Hoggards, the New Hanovers. And so I think Trask is a team that could certainly score a lot of points. In the Mid-Eastern Conference, I guess my choice would be Laney. I think they've got a lot of, guys that can score the ball. But again, playing in the Mid-Eastern Conference is tough. A lot of these teams want to play in the 50s and not in the 70s or 80s. So, I think Southeastern Homeschool and Trask probably average more points than Laney, but Laney probably leads, the conference in scoring. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Again, basketball right around the corner. We'll be getting underway with the public schools here in the next few days or weeks, and looking forward to getting out to as many games as I can. I hope you guys will tune in for the next couple previews, swimming and wrestling, which will be coming up the next two days, and we will see you guys then. Bye bye.